Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. Today I'm joined by my Horizon 3 colleague, Eric Teichmiller. So Eric's got a pretty interesting story, kind of interesting. We got some friends in common from one of his previous jobs, but have him on the show to kind of share about his background and kind of what he's doing these days. And the cool thing about Eric's background, his job that he's in where we work, it's something that is one of those job roles that people don't think about sometimes. So I think it's one that would be great to discuss. And so I look forward to discussing your role. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, my name is, as Phil said, my name is Eric Teichmiller. Been in cybersecurity for probably close to 7 years now. Started in IT closer to 12 years ago, though. I kind of got into tech almost on accident, I guess you could say. I was originally going to college for psychology, honestly, and ended up dropping out because school just didn't quite mesh with me at the time. And my brother asked if I wanted to be a Linux admin, and got on board with him at a web hosting company. And ended up working there for close to 5 years, got bored with it, and moved on to more of a risk and compliance role, doing consulting for DoD and the DIB, trying to help folks meet compliance around primarily DFARS, and DFARS was a big one at the time, and then later on that evolved into CMMC, mostly around non-classified stuff. But from there, I kind of shifted to work direct for one of our customers, kind of helping them build out their network, get things like multi-factor in place, and kind of help them shore up their security measures, write policies, and all sorts of things. Wear many hats, I guess you could say. And then after working, under a government role for a while, decided to shift into commercial stuff, which is where I'm at now, and I'm loving every minute of it. And with that, I also started looking into the offensive security side of things, and worked for a pen testing as a service company previous to Horizon 3. And now I'm with Horizon 3 and loving every minute of it. But yeah, all that to say, here I am, and I'm really enjoying cybersecurity as a whole.
Very cool story. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing with people the type of role you're in now and kind of what you do in that role.
Sure. Yeah, I am a technical account manager. Been doing it for a couple of years now. Both my previous role and my current one were very similar in nature. But really, as a technical account manager, your role, and I mean, I'm sure it varies from company to company to some degree, but we're really there to support the customer from kind of a subject matter expert standpoint with whatever product you might be selling. In this case, with Horizon 3, autonomous pen testing is something that fascinates me, and clients will always have questions around what it does, the information that it produces, and really just understanding the nuances of it. And that's kind of where my role comes in, to kind of act as more of an extension of their team as it pertains to our product, and just making sure that they're comfortable with it and able to utilize it to the best extent with whatever their goals are. And that's kind of what I do from a day to day.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that you came from another company doing pen testing as a service, working in the offensive security space, because there's so many times, because I've worked for several startups now, and there was some element of offensive security processes involved with whatever their product was. But a lot of times you saw a lot of the people that were, TAMs or customer success folks, sales engineers, they came from more the defensive side. So does that seem your background, your previous job, does that seem to be making it easier to learn the product and at Horizon 3?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even though I come from the defensive side of cybersecurity, a lot of the nuances of it you kind of learn naturally, even though you may not have direct experience with some of the tools that are used within pen testing. You at least know what their goals, what those tools' goals are from the other side of the fence, and it's always good to understand from the defensive side, what the adversary is doing, what kind of tools they use, what kind of thought processes go into it, and I really had to kind of learn both sides of it already, just because I needed to know what to defend against. I think it was more of a natural transition than you'd expect. It really wasn't bad at all. It kind of felt like I was just getting a closer peek to the other side of the fence, and now I'm more hands-on for on this side of things. So it was really a nice transition.
So how do you feel that having the defensive background helps you in your role?
Honestly, it kind of gives me that customer perspective. I can better understand, what kind of difficulties they are trying to overcome, and really cater, my strategies to that. Like I know what the day to day of a blue team looks like, and I know that they're going to be in the weeds with a lot of different things. And I think it kind of helps me kind of frame the product a little bit differently than other TAMs or even sales people might do, just because I kind of have that customer perspective. I feel like, but yeah, it definitely does shape it to some degree.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be better fit for being able to describe, some of the remediation steps, because you take a lot of people that are in these type of roles or work in pen testing. Some nowadays, a lot of people skip over working on the defense side, because when I started out, I spent 6 years as a sysadmin before security was really a common role, and then moved into security and worked on the defensive side for several years. And nowadays people can jump right into the offensive side without doing any education or getting experience on the defense side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not a bad thing to hop into the offensive side of things. You kind of will get that perspective regardless of which side you really focus on. But it does kind of give you, I guess, more of an appreciation, I guess, for the defenders out there, because I guess the offensive side of things are always seen as the bad guy in certain scenarios. But honestly, kind of having that mesh of the two is really advantageous, just because you can kind of see both sides of the equation and don't really, take offense to it, so to speak, if you understand what both sides are doing.
So kind of what are your thoughts, since you've been at Horizon 3 for a while, because you've worked with people doing pen tests as a service, and now you're working with autonomous pen testing. So what are your thoughts? I mean, I know for myself, when I came in here, I was amazed that there was that level of automation for pen testing.
Yeah, honestly, I geeked out during my interview, just because it was kind of my first, I guess, deep dive into what it does. I got to talk to one of the co-founders as my first interview, and geeking out with him on it was just fantastic. I mean, I've been exposed to manual pen testing for a while now, and even with some of my other roles, I've been aware of it, and I know what goes into it. And just finding out that a tool's been developed that takes a lot of those techniques and completely hands off, is able to complete a pen test from start to finish, just blew my mind. And then not only that, but to come out of the interview and onto the team and find out that everything that they were geeking out on not only works, but it works well, like to the point where I'm surprised at just how granular it can get, and some of the things that it finds, and it's pretty mind blowing, but it's really cool to be a part of it. So I'm looking forward to, what it does going forward.
So we were talking before the show started, and you kind of mentioned a recent experience at a conference and enjoyed kind of giving advice and mentoring those that are wanting to get into cybersecurity. So what recommendation would you have for like an educational path for someone that wanted to get into cybersecurity?
Sure. I mean, I come from a bit of I guess, a unique scenario. I mean, it's probably less and less unique than I would think, especially with how expensive school is becoming. But I didn't really finish a college degree. I kind of got into it at the ground level and just absorbed as much as I could and just kept building and building and building. And of course, I kind of took the certification route, which a lot of people are doing these days. And that's really the best advice I could give. Just never stop learning. And if it's something that you're interested in and that you want to pursue a career on, just find out whichever path you want to take. Find out what the base certifications are that most people will look for, from interview standpoint or a resume standpoint, and focus in on those. Get in, start, getting experience in your field, whether it's an entry level position. I guess you could even look into doing internships if it's an option, but just building experience and never stop learning. Just with anything else, if you're passionate about it and you absorb it, then you'll make it in the industry. And it's becoming more and more accepted that a college degree isn't a base requirement. So never feel like you're behind just because you don't have a college degree, and just keep moving forward and become a sponge.
So you mentioned certifications. So what certifications do you have?
At the moment, I have some of the more basic certifications. I have Security Plus. I have my A Plus, of course, which both of which might be expiring soon, so I might need to re-up on those. And I'm currently going for CISSP. I technically am qualified to take the test, but I just need to really study up and I guess get a sponsorship and then go for that one. But that'll probably be my next goal. And then I could possibly get CEH at this point, but I might just skip over that one and go for CISSP first.
Good. So what, as far as certifications, do you feel like your certifications have done much to help you get opportunities?
Um, for my personal experience, it hasn't to at least the degree that it could for some. A lot of what I've managed to accomplish has been primarily just from my work experience and just being in it for as long as I have, and being able to talk to it, especially if you've had a decent amount of work experience. If you can talk to it and connect to, an interviewer at that level, they're much more likely to overlook gaps in a resume if it were to be a degree or certifications, as long as you are aware of what what you're doing and know how to comfortably talk to it. You can normally get through an interview without any issue. So I've kind of made it this far mostly on work experience alone, but certifications are definitely a plus and kind of give you a direction as far as going down one path or the other. So they're still never a bad option.
So as far as advice you'd give to someone trying to get a job, what kind of advice would you have for trying to find a job and interviewing for jobs?
Honestly, whenever you are going into a job search, never feel like you are just limited by your immediate area. A lot of companies these days are kind of embracing a remote first mindset. I mean, Horizon 3 and the last job I was at are both remote first. So don't limit your job search to your local area, especially if you're not in a bigger tech hub. Don't believe that's a deterrent, because there's always going to be remote options out there. And then look for things that are possibly closer to entry level and that you can kind of get in on the ground floor from. And then if you do get selected for an interview, make sure that you know, do some research on the company that you're interviewing with and try to connect with the person that you're interviewing with on that level. If you can connect with the person that you're interviewing with and really build rapport during the interview, they're much more likely to consider you to, you know, go on to other stages. Even if they feel like you might be lacking from a knowledge or skill set standpoint, if you're able to connect on a cultural or personal level, then they are more willing to kind of build you to, you know, what they're looking for. So come prepared and just try to connect with whoever you're talking to on some sort of, you know, personal or professional level.
So you see a lot of these job descriptions that have like ridiculous amount of requirements. How should someone approach that when you see these different, say it's an entry level position and it has a bunch of kind of ridiculous sounding requirements? How would you approach that?
Don't put too much merit in it. A lot of these job searches and descriptions are written by someone that may not fully understand what is actually entailed in that job and may just be pulling checkboxes from a list that they would assume are required. But don't put all of the merit into that, even if you feel like you may not be checking all the boxes. If you feel like the description is something that you'd be interested in and you know that you're capable of it, don't let it deter you. I mean, when it comes to those check boxes that they're trying to just, you know, to fill in on those job descriptions, they're not always hard requirements. They're more soft requirements than anything. And so just don't let it be a deterrent.
Yeah, an interesting thing I've seen about job descriptions is I've seen job descriptions where someone just copied and pasted from another company and forgot to change the names.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it probably is a little bit more of a strict guideline if you're applying for government positions, because in a lot of cases they have to check off those boxes. But when it's a commercial, position, don't let that be a hard deterrent. Just go ahead and apply for it if you feel like you are qualified or you have interest in that type of role, and you know, you're more likely to I guess hit, you're more likely to get an interview on the ones you actually apply for than the ones you don't. So if you don't apply for it, there's no hope of getting an interview.
Yeah, one of the things too that's kind of impressive is the fact that you recently, you when you switched over, moved over to Horizon 3, this is a really tough job market. Is there anything that you credit for your success of being able to find something fairly quickly?
Um, so when it comes to applying for any job, I've always kind of made sure that I am in a good position already. I don't like to, I guess, rush into a new position, especially if I'm. It's hard to describe it, but don't do it out of a sense of desperation. Do it consciously. Do it in a way that makes sense for you and the current position that you're in. But also don't get discouraged if you know you've had a couple of misses. Just kind of keep being diligent and keep applying for roles that you feel you would have fun in and that you'd be interested in, and will kind of build you up toward your overall or long-term goals. And don't just apply to a job just because you know you're trying to put resumes out. Make sure that it's intentional and that it's something that you can put effort into. You don't want to just spray and pray. You want to actually make sure that your you know, resume is kind of built out for each position you're trying to apply for. Make sure that you are making an intentional effort with a cover letter, and making sure that you know you're actually putting some sort of passion into the application, instead of just putting them out there and hoping for the best. Even in a declining job market or a slower job market, as long as the position that you're aiming for is a good fit for you and you can show it, you're still more likely to get an interview than other folks that are just blasting resumes out into the void.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So, kind of circling back to the education thing. So, what are some of your study tips when someone's studying to learn something new or studying for a certification?
Honestly, just make sure that you are in a good position to really focus. I am extremely ADD. So when it comes to studying, it's not the thing that comes easiest to me. But if I'm interested in something, I can kind of hyper focus. So as long as I can get myself into that kind of hyper focus mind, state of mind and eliminate distractions, that's what helps me the most. So that would be my first tip. Try to eliminate distractions as much as you can. And then just find a way of learning that is fun for you. I personally learn the best by just doing something and maybe watching a video here and there around the subject, but then actually doing something hands-on. So I like to kind of go back and forth between book learning and hands-on learning so I can actually apply what I'm learning. So as long as I can apply something to a real world scenario, I'm much more likely to retain it.
Yeah, that's kind of me too. The hands on is easier for me to learn. So, while you're learning, sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming. You're putting out all this time studying because a lot of us have day jobs. So, what do you do to kind of avoid getting burnout in your studies?
Honestly, have hobbies that aren't your day job. I kind of learned that the hard way of experiencing burnout in a couple of my roles, both my last couple, and even with some of my hobbies, I've experienced burnout. But just make sure that you're not too focused on one thing all the time. If you're living and breathing your day job, you're bound to burn out on it. If you're living and breathing your hobbies, you're bound to burn out on it. So have some variety. Don't try to hyper focus for too long. Otherwise, that's going to cause burnout pretty quickly. So just try to mix it up with hobbies and other activities. Take a break from time to time.
Yeah, very good advice. So, what are some of the hobbies you enjoy?
I'm actually a photographer as well as a writer, and of course, I'm in the world of IT. I'm a nerd. I'm also a gamer. But here lately, photography has been something that I've kind of used as a creative outlet. And also, we're actually in my photo studio right now. I kind of use it as a co-working space as well as the photography studio. But it's been great. I've kind of been doing it for I guess about 3 years now. Honestly, picked up my first camera with the intent of creating a YouTube channel around cybersecurity, I guess for the layman, so to speak, kind of expressing the best practices and the reasons behind cybersecurity for those that think we're the bad guys. But I ended up going out and playing with it and exploring photography as well and just kind of fell in love with it and kept doing it and completely forgot about the YouTube channel. So that is still not off the ground. Maybe one day, but it kind of turned into this. So it's been fun.
Well, that's good that you found a hobby you enjoy. That's good.
Yeah.
So, as far as you kind of new to Horizon 3, kind of getting started. So, what are your kind of goals there? Where would you like to move into in the future?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's still up in the air. I'm still really enjoying what I'm doing right now. I would love to, because I'm currently, as I said, working as a technical account manager, which is very much mission focused and kind of, it's got a pretty singular lane to it. I'm a kind of person that I love problem solving, and I really love being in a position where I can take more of a big picture approach. So I'd love to explore options around that, kind of taking more of a big picture approach to whether it be customer success as a whole, or just a position that kind of gives me that viewpoint more often than not. Just because when I'm staying in something that's more singular focused, that's when I tend to get burnt out, at least for a long over a long period of time. But as long as I can keep learning and keep having puzzles to piece together, my brain tends to be pretty happy.
So we're getting down towards the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't discussed?
Nothing specific. Just, if you're thinking about going into cybersecurity and you feel some level of intimidation about it, I mean, when it comes to anything, just start. Don't feel like you are too old or feel like you're just not quite smart enough. Just try. And all you can do is try. And the worst thing that can happen is that you fail. And we fail every day. And just make it a learning experience. Mistakes are only bad if you don't learn from them. So just start and see what happens.
Well, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join the podcast. I'm sure their listeners are going to get some good out of this. I appreciate it. And it was great getting to learn more about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I greatly appreciate you having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.